Tonight on Reporting Scotland, SNP fury as a new Commons debate proposing an immediate Gaza ceasefire is denied by the Speaker, days after chaotic scenes when he broke parliamentary protocol. Also on tonight's programme, Scotland's biggest teaching union reacts angrily to an admission by the Education Secretary she hadn't read its report alleging high levels of violence in Aberdeen schools. Police say they're not treating the death of a man found burning in Motherwell Park as suspicious and have thanked the public for aiding their investigation. Counting the cost of living with a disability, why those reliant on technology to survive say that other essentials are unaffordable.
The weighing up of keeping us charged and doing everything else.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Monday's programme. The row between the Speaker of the House of Commons and the SNP over a ceasefire in Gaza has moved up a gear this evening. The party's Westminster leader, Stephen Flynn, said Sir Lindsay Hoyle had broken his word today after his decision to break the rules last week. It follows the refusal to grant another debate in the SNP's name. Sir Lindsay said there were no grounds for it, adding he believed there will be a UK government statement on the issue tomorrow. Our Westminster correspondent David Porter has more.
Chaos and confusion in the Commons last week after it emerged that an SNP debate calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza would not be voted on. Those events, which also got Labour out of a hole, led to angry scenes and an apology from the Speaker. But scores of MPs, more than a tenth of the Commons, have now publicly called for Sir Lindsay Hoyle to stand down.
Point of order, Stephen Flynn.
Today, the SNP returned to the issue, calling for an emergency debate on Gaza.
In good faith, my colleagues and I sought to bring forward an SO24 debate which would have, amongst other things, sought to end the sale of arms to Israel and indeed to ensure that this House said to the government that it must use its voice at the United Nations to exercise our view in favour of an immediate ceasefire. It's my understanding, Mr Speaker, that SO24 application has not been accepted.
That was turned down by the Speaker, who explained the UK government was planning a statement of its own.
I've decided the application for an emergency debate should not proceed. That decision, of course, does not mean that members cannot apply for a debate at a later stage when circumstances might have changed.
But that has not satisfied the SNP.
I think I've been entirely justified in my remarks. We know that Lindsay Hoyle was pressurised by Sir Keir Starmer last week into changing the rules of the House of Commons, and Lindsay Hoyle today has opted to break his word. So in the space of just a few days, he's broken both the rules and his word, not just to parliamentarians, but to the public, because ultimately we are here as representatives of them. I believe his position is untenable, and nothing today would in any way change my mind in that regard.
Labour say they put their case but deny bullying the Speaker. Like the waters flowing past the Houses of Parliament, there's more than a little choppiness in this whole issue. Gaza and what can be done to save lives will return to the Commons shortly. David Porter, reporting Scotland, Westminster.
Now, you might remember last week we brought you the testimony of teachers in Aberdeen who told us they were scared to go to work because of escalating pupil violence. It followed a report by Scotland's largest teaching union there, which found that nearly half the teachers surveyed said violence in their school happened every day. Well, over the weekend, Scotland's Education Secretary acknowledged she hadn't read that report. Today, the EIS union said its members were astonished by that. Louise Hosey reports.
Last week's EIS report into pupil violence in Aberdeen schools has sparked a wider discussion about the situation in classrooms across Scotland. Appearing on BBC Scotland's Sunday show yesterday, Education Secretary Jenny Gilruth said any such behaviour was completely unacceptable and insisted the Scottish Government was addressing it. It also emerged during the interview that she hadn't read the details of the EIS Aberdeen report.
Well, I haven't looked at the specifics of the EIS's report from Aberdeen because, of course, that would be a matter for
Why?
Aberdeen.
It speaks of a total crisis in the department that you oversee.
I don't oversee the education locally, actually. That's a matter for the local
You're the
authority
Education
in Lancashire.
Secretary and you're hearing that...
Today, the EIS union said the Education Secretary's admission was still being digested.
Quite frankly, our members are astonished by a Secretary of State for Education who hasn't read such a concerning report around the violence and aggression that's been happening towards our members.
More than a third of teachers who took part in last week's report said they had been physically assaulted by a pupil at school. The BBC also heard powerful testimonies from some teachers about the effect of violent pupil behaviour.
I would say for the first time in my career, I'm scared in my workplace. I'm edgy. I feel like something's going to happen or something could happen at any time.
The First Minister says the issue is being taken seriously.
I know it's a very emotive subject, and understandably so. What we want to try to do is make sure we get that absolute balance right, where of course we are eliminating violence in schools and making sure we're doing what we can to support pupils as well, support the teaching staff who do an incredible job as well. So Jenny has engaged with the EIS, will continue to engage with the EIS and teachers right across the country.
In a statement today, Aberdeen City Council said its co-leaders had a constructive meeting with the Education Secretary on Friday and were due to meet with unions following the EIS survey. It said a data review showed the vast majority of children continued to behave well, but there were some differences in a small number due to recent challenges, including the pandemic, which had increased pressure on staff. Louise Hosey, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
Police say there are no suspicious circumstances surrounding the death of a man found burning in a park in Motherwell at the weekend. There have been worries from local residents in the Muirhouse area of the town since Saturday. But after extensive inquiries, police believe there's nothing suspicious about the death. Suzanne Allen reports.
Well, it's all quiet here now, but for the last 48 hours, police and forensic officers have been here at the scene where the body was found in the Muirhouse area of Motherwell. Today, though, relief from the local community as they have some answers as to what happened here. It was Saturday morning, just after 9 a.m, when the emergency services were called here after a member of the public had found a burned body in the park near to the football pitch. Police and firefighters attended the scene. The firefighters left after a couple of hours, but over the weekend we saw police combing the pitch and the surrounding area, gathering evidence and speaking to the public. This has been a very unsettling time for people in this part of Motherwell, and residents told us yesterday they were extremely worried because they didn't know if someone had been attacked. Police have now confirmed this as a non-suspicious death. That means they believe there is no criminality involved. Although formal identification of the man is still to take place, next of kin have been told. Police say they would like to thank the local community for their patience and understanding as they carried out inquiries in the area. Suzanne Allen, reporting Scotland, Motherwell.
To some of the day's other stories now. And a man who abducted and raped a woman in Glasgow after pretending to be a taxi driver has been jailed for 6 years. 38-year-old Barzan Noshuani picked up the woman after a night out in August 2022 before attacking her at his barbershop in Denniston. He was found guilty of abduction and rape at the High Court in Glasgow. The cost of dog attacks on livestock here more than doubled over the last year, according to new figures. The insurer NFU Mutual found farm animals worth an estimated £123,000 were severely injured or killed in 2023. Police Scotland says irresponsible dog owners will be prosecuted. And a Willy Wonka experience in Glasgow was cancelled at the weekend after police were called and angry families demanded refunds. The event was advertised as featuring wondrous creations and enchanting surprises. But BBC Scotland News has been told that it was little more than an abandoned empty warehouse. Organisers House of Illuminati say they fully apologise and will give full refunds. Now, life for many disabled people in Scotland already involves extra costs. Even basic needs like using specialist equipment is becoming a struggle. A new survey by Ewan's Guide, a Scottish disability access charity, found 61% of respondents are rationing energy use. Among them is Craig Watson, diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. His electric wheelchair offers him independence, but charging it now brings a stark choice between that and heating and eating. Ian Hamilton has this report.
Being in the scooter helps in here because even inside here, I would really struggle to walk.
Craig Watson says his electric mobility scooter is his lifeline to independence.
Since I stopped working about 4 years ago now, I've become more dependent on the scooter because it's easier to get around and provides independence to me.
Craig used to earn a good living working offshore in the oil industry. 9 years ago, at the age of 44, his world changed when he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Spiralling energy costs has meant he can no longer afford to charge his electric scooter as much as he would like.
The difficulty is the weighing up of keeping us charged and doing everything else. So heating the house, eating 3 meals a day, or charging us up. If this isn't charged, I'll sit in the house and just veg. And that's not doing me, my mental health, any good as sitting vegging.
Craig's story is not unique. The charity Ewan's Guide has surveyed 6,000 disabled people across the UK, and their results paint a grim picture. 76% report a daily impact of the cost of living crisis. 61% are reducing their energy usage. 51% are concerned about affording their groceries. 50% report reducing their leisure activities. And 37% are concerned about their vehicle costs. The charity Ewan's Guide says that disabled people and their families are facing some difficult choices. What makes disabled people any different? A lot of people are struggling at the moment financially.
So disabled people have a lot more to consider in life, including medical equipment, which is life-saving equipment. They have that on top of kitchen appliances, entertainment systems, things that you use in your daily life. Disabled people have things on top of that as well.
Craig believes there is something the UK government could do to relieve the financial pressure on disabled people.
To buy something that's sole use is for disabled people, like a scooter. You don't pay that because it's for your disability. If that was the same for your electricity, not just to myself, but to everyone who needs it, it would be a massive help.
For now, just getting out is a luxury for Craig. Ian Hamilton, reporting Scotland.
There have been calls for the Celtic boss, Brendan Rodgers, to apologise for comments made to a BBC journalist in a post-match interview. In response to a question asked by sport reporter Jane Lewis, he called her a good girl. Here's what happened.
But I'm so delighted for the players because, like I say, there's a story being written about this group. But we will write our own story.
Can you give us a bit more? You can't give us. You don't want to give us a bit more insight into that and what you mean by that.
No, you know exactly what I mean.
I'm actually not sure. I do exactly know what you mean.
Okay.
Can you tell us? People might be interested to know.
No.
But you're the one that's bringing that up.
Yes, absolutely.
So can you not give us some more on it?
Done. Good girl.
Done?
Well done. Cheers.
Well, that's what happened. Let's speak to our sports news correspondent, Chris McLaughlin. So, Chris, there has been quite a reaction to this.
Yeah, comments and that phrase in particular causing quite a stir, Laura, over the past 24 hours. You heard Brendan Rodgers there, you heard what he said. A little bit tetchy, didn't really like the line of questioning. I suppose the big question here is, what was the intention behind what he said? What can we read into that phrase or the use of that phrase in particular? Sexist? Ill-judged? Clunky, maybe? Well, some women's groups have called for him to apologise. The Scottish Feminist Network said that the go-to attitude of a manager of a winning team was condescension is quite illuminating, but really very depressing in 2024. For Women's Scotland, it's depressing that casual sexism is still embedded in sport, they say. Now, worth pointing out that my understanding is that the reporter herself, Jane Lewis, was not offended by what Brendan Rodgers said after that interview. Also worth pointing out that the club has since reached out to Jane Lewis. There is no ill feeling between the two. Some people clearly have taken offence to what Brendan Rodgers said, but not the reporter herself.
So has there been anything official from Brendan Rodgers, from Celtic or from the BBC?
Well, let's take Celtic and Brendan Rodgers first and foremost. Nothing official. He will be speaking at a media conference tomorrow. I would fully expect him to address a question on this at that time. Nothing official from Celtic. Similar from the BBC. Clearly, they don't want to get embroiled in an argument about this either. No official comment from Celtic, no official comment from the BBC. But as I said, I would expect Brendan Rodgers to address the situation at a media conference tomorrow.
Well, we will see in due course. Thank you very much, Chris. The First Minister is being urged to think again over cuts to spending on affordable housing. The call comes a day before MSP's vote on the draft Scottish budget. Well, let's get more from our political correspondent, David Henderson. And David, so there's pressure on Humza Yousaf ahead of that vote.
Yes, indeed. The First Minister's spending plans will be voted on late tomorrow afternoon. Now, when this draft budget was first presented back in December, ministers here were at pains to point out the impact of decisions which had just been made by the UK Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, in his budget in November, which led to a cut in capital investment across the UK. That's money for hospitals, schools, roads and the like. Now, a portion of those cuts have been passed on. It will mean that the Scottish Government's capital budget will be reduced by around 10% next year. But campaigners say that the impact on the affordable housing budget goes well beyond that. They say it amounts to cuts of around 26%, which will mean around 2,500 affordable homes not being available next year. And they say even now there's time for a rethink.
It's having a devastating impact. I mean, already it was getting more difficult to build affordable housing because of the aftermath of COVID, inflationary pressures, Brexit impacts, the general cost of living crisis. And to have this additional enforced cut by the government, means that the whole dream of social housing for Scotland is unravelling.
Well, I interviewed Humza Yousaf this afternoon, and he said he's giving an uplift to the budgets for health, for education and the police, and doing his best, as he puts it, to defend investment in the face of cuts by the Conservatives. But of course, this problem goes well beyond affordable housing. You'll recall that last week, new NHS building projects across Scotland were put on hold because of budget pressures, and the risk for the First Minister is that in this election year, some voters may choose to blame him for what is happening.
And on another issue, the First Minister is still pushing councils to agree a freeze on council tax.
Yes, indeed, and that's proving tricky because he wants a Scotland-wide freeze on council tax to help households. He's offering money to fund councils who agree to do that. The problem is that even now, only around a third of Scottish councils have signed up to this plan. Last Thursday, Argyll and Bute Council said that they were going to defy the Scottish Government and announced plans for an increase in council tax. Orkney Council will decide tomorrow whether they are going to sign up to this plan. Humza Yousaf told me today that council tax rises are unjustifiable during a cost of living crisis. So we'll see whether councils agree with that.
Indeed, we will be talking about this at length tomorrow. For the moment, thank you very much, David.
Football now, and it was a dramatic weekend in the title race as Rangers put in a dominant performance against third-place Hearts on Saturday, while Celtic left it late to snatch victory against Motherwell. That was a Sunday meeting, which meant Brendan Rodgers' side kicked off 5 points behind the league leaders. A brilliant Blair Spittle goal gave Motherwell the lead going into half-time, but the champions equalised through substitute Adam Ida before he grabbed this winner in the 94th minute, before Luis Palma made it 3-1 2 minutes later. And here is how it leaves the top 6 then. Those goals in stoppage time for Celtic means the gap remains just 2 points, but Rangers giving a healthy boost to their goal difference after their win on Saturday. And there's big games this midweek to come as well. Celtic host Dundee, who are in a bid to get a spot in the top 6, while Rangers, having just faced one of the informed sides in Hearts, face one of the other teams in terrific shape at the moment, Kilmarnock, who are firmly in the hunt for European football. Also hoping for European football next season are St Mirren. Their manager Stephen Robinson says it would be quite the achievement if they make the top 6 2 seasons in a row, but stresses there is still a long way to go in the campaign. His 5th place side travel to relegation-threatened Ross County tomorrow, somewhere they haven't won since October 2021. With the Buddies 6 points ahead of Dundee, it does put them in a strong position to secure their 2nd top 6 finish since the split was introduced in the Premiership 24 years ago.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it once in 46 years we got into the top 6? To do it 2 years in a row would be an incredible achievement for this group of players and everybody at the football club. You know, we've pushed the football club forward massively, on and off the pitch. You know, with Keith and his team at the ground, the board's backing. You know, there's a lot of people that don't get recognition, and the group of players themselves, I'll be absolutely delighted for them. But there's still a lot of work to be done.
Scotland's women are braced for the final of the Pinatar Cup tomorrow, but forward Lisa Evans believes it's the top stage that Pedro Martinez Losa's side should be aiming to return to. The Scots are in Spain, where they face Finland in tomorrow's final, but Evans believes they have the quality it takes to return to a major tournament for the first time since the 2019 World Cup. The Euro 2025 qualifiers, they begin in April.
The Euros and the World Cup, I think, for these girls, they deserve it so much. The staff deserve it. And we need to be there. We have enough quality. We've got top players in this group, and we just deserve to be there. I regard us as one of the best teams in Europe. So, yeah, we need to be there. We deserve to be there. It's important that we're on the main stage and competing against the teams that we have been competing against in the Nations League. That's the teams that we want to be playing, and to do that, we need to be at major tournaments. So, yeah, we need to get there.
Best of luck to them. Well, it was a memorable night for Scotland after Gregor Townsend's side made it 4 Calcutta Cup victories in a row for the first time in over a century, leaving the Six Nations table looking like this. Scotland 2nd behind table-topping Ireland. However, co-captain Rory Darge says there is still room to improve. Scotland came from behind to beat their old rivals 30-21 at Murrayfield on Saturday evening, with Duhan van der Merwe's hat-trick the headline act from an impressive performance from Townsend's side. But Darge hopes for more when they travel to Italy in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I think it was scrappy to start with for sure. We sort of weathered that, made a few mistakes. Part of it was the sort of pressure England put us under, and then part of it was just, I think we just made a few mistakes out there. So that's something we'll look to get better at. But I think, yeah, Finn and Benny controlled the game really well and put us in the right places, and forwards went to work off the back of that.
Yeah, I must admit, Laura, I think a lot of Scotland fans holding their breath when they initially went behind at Murrayfield.
Oh,
but
absolutely. I could watch those pictures again and again.
We really could.
Yeah.
I'm sure Duhan van der Merwe is as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
OK, now let's go over to Sarah and Ben to find out what's happening on the BBC Scotland channel at 9 o'clock.
We speak to the Housing Minister as Hamza Yousaf is urged to scrap £190 million of cuts to its housing budget.
We'll have more on the row between the Speaker of the House of Commons and the SNP over a ceasefire in Gaza.
And model and muse Patty Boyd lifts the lid on her love triangle with Eric Clapton and George Harrison.
We'll see you at 9.
Now let's take a look at the weather with Chris, and please tell us these kind of scenes are going to continue. Those beautiful blue skies.
It was a nice day today, wasn't it?
Beautiful.
Laura? Yes, as we enter the last few days of February, today was pretty decent. The rest of the week, not so much.
I can tell by that pause.
Sorry. Thanks very much indeed. Very good image. Yeah, lovely day of weather today. Lots of sunshine and blue sky around. But actually, the next few days, a little bit different, certainly more unsettled. You can see in the outlook there some rain clouds on the icon. So cloudier with some rain, but still some bright, if not sunny moments at times. Tonight, it begins to change with this great big lump of cloud on the satellite image there, moving its way in, bringing some rather cloudy and at times wet weather. Initially, it's dry, so at the moment, still some clear skies, but watch what happens. Midnight through the early hours, the cloud and rain sweeps in from the west-northwest. So temperatures will fall down close to freezing, if not lower, for a time, but then the cloud and rain arrives and they'll pop back up again. So, first thing tomorrow, it's a cloudy and wet start to Tuesday, but it's an improving picture because that cloud and rain should shift out towards the North Sea by lunchtime, and then the afternoon is brighter. It's blustery and it's also showery. Here's a snapshot mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock. You can see there'll be some bright spells around, but also a fair number of showers coming in on those brisk west winds. Temperatures 8, 9, 10 Celsius. Catch a shower, perhaps even a bit of hail in the mix at times, and it could well be quite heavy. Around the northwest coast, the far north and the Northern Isles, those winds still fresh, occasionally strong. Tomorrow evening, still some showers around, but actually overnight tomorrow night, those showers fade away. It's then dry with some clear skies, still a number across Orkney and Shetland, and temperatures down into low single digits, a few pockets of frost here and there. That takes us to midweek now. This is Wednesday, and it's a dry start, but it turns cloudy and wet with outbreaks of rain working their way in. So Wednesday is a cloudy day and at times quite wet, so with some winteriness in the hills and mountains. Temperatures 8, 9 Celsius, winds coming in from the south. And that picture all courtesy of an area of low pressure which is sticking with us for the end of the week. So on Thursday and Friday, it's unsettled. There'll be clouds, some rain and some showers at times. And those showers could be wintry. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you, Christopher. Now tonight's main news again. The SNP responds furiously as the Speaker denies them a new Commons debate proposing an immediate Gaza ceasefire, days after chaotic scenes when he broke parliamentary protocol. And that is Reporting in Scotland. I will have your late news around 10:30 tonight. Join me then if you can. In the meantime, from everyone in here, enjoy your evening. Good night.